In my first two talks, I explained why my public issue on free speech on college campuses is so important and why I think everyone should care about it and push against the movement to restrict free speech. I explained that I believe that free speech should be guaranteed under any circumstances for everybody. In this talk, I'll be explaining the two best solutions that I've come up with for guaranteeing this for our generation and for future generations. The first solution I'll be presenting is educating students on critical thinking skills and on how to approach these discussions maturely. The second I'll be presenting is forming groups for these students to have the discussions that they should be having. The purpose of higher education, of all education, is to teach us how to think and not what to think. This is why it's so important to make sure that our students are well educated in the skills that they'll need to have mature and controversial discussions. In a quote by Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black in the Supreme Court case Doe versus California, he said that the First Amendment does not allow Congress to pass any law restricting free speech. I believe that when he said this, he was speaking about all institutions and not just Congress, which includes our public education and universities. Educators should be dedicated to teaching critical thinking skills and mature disagreement, meaning that in our learning, we should be focusing on thinking about an issue not as an attack on our personal beliefs or an attack on our personal identity, but thinking about how to address an issue logically and rationally. And once we've learned this, we should then think about how we're going to form these groups, have these discussions, and practice these skills that we've learned in our education. Which brings me to the formation of groups. A prominent group, the Foundation for Independent Rights in Education, or FIRE for short, has already begun this process of helping students form groups on their college campuses to ensure that they are able to have these discussions without being restricted or censored. They have set up websites and teams to help students report cases, form groups, speak with intellectuals who know more about this than them and who can help them figure out how to get more students involved. Students should be able to come together and have speakers. In these groups, it's not just important that students are allowed to discuss amongst themselves, but also that they're allowed to have speakers. People who have been through life, who have studied topics of interest to them, and who have some nuanced views to give to the students outside of their educators, their professors, or their mentors. The ability to think as we please and say what we think is the most important ability that we as human beings have. It is not only foundational to society, but foundational to us as living, breathing, thinking creatures. And in the age of communication, it is doubly important, more now than ever, with the ability to communicate through smartphones or through video calls or radio or anything in general. Global communication is at an all-time high, and it's not slowing down at any meaningful rate, which means that public discourse will become more and more important, more so than anything else. And it's important that we don't react with aggression when we're having these discussions. There is no justification for aggression, I believe, and the only reasonable way to react when you are faced with an opinion that is not your own is to address the opinion for what it's worth and not address the person or what you perceive them to be attacking about you or somebody else. This is, for me, the most important public issue and why I personally chose to speak about it.